So we're going to continue in our calculus review. We're going to be examining equations of a line. And so today we're going to be able to find the equation of a line. Now this is a quintessential element to calculus. Especially you're going to see problems that you're going to be taking the derivative to be able to find the slope, and it's going to ask you, essentially the question is going to ask you to create an equation of the line with whatever given information. And so this review here is going to help you be able to do that. So we'll start off with an example. It says a line goes through points 2, 5, and 3, 2. Write the equation of a line in all three forms. So there's going to be three forms to an equation of a line that we're going to be using. Now if you notice our basic information, you're going to notice that we're going to need one of two things. You're going to need a slope and you're going to need a point. Now the slope you may have to find. And typically the way that we can find a slope has been through the slope formula. And you need 2 points. So if you have 2 points, you can use the slope formula, you can find the slope. Well, in calculus, you're going to learn another tool, and that tool is also going to allow you to find the slope at basically any instantaneous point. So having said that, right now we're just going to focus on being able to find the slope this way. But the process of creating that equation of a line does not change. So like I said, let's start with the 2 points. We're going to have to use the slope formula, and by using the slope formula, I get -3, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It doesn't matter how I write it. I could say that this is going to be, we can say y2, y1, x2, x1. I could have them flipped as long as I'm consistent. We're good. So it's -3. There's my slope. So now the point slope form looks like this. This is the go-to equation. You're always going to start with that equation. Always, always, always. And so you plug in the information. We have, now I'm going to highlight it, y1 and x1, those are from your initial point. So technically I could use 2 for my x1 and 5 for my y1. And then we also have my slope. And so the m, that comes from my slope. And so those are going to be the values that we're going to be plugging in. And so you plug those values in, and right now this is in my point slope form. You technically could be done. If it's just asking for an equation, you're done. But now I can convert this into the other forms. And so I can take that equation, and by isolating y and getting y by itself, I can turn this into the slope-intercept form. So I can distribute that -3, and then I'm going to add the 5. And now I get y equals -3x plus 11. And then from the last position, okay, if I have that y equals -3x plus 11, now I can turn it into standard form, and that form looks like ax plus by equals c. So my x and y are on the same side, so that means I need to add this 3x to both sides, and then I get 3x plus y equals 11. That's going to be my standard form. So these are the three forms that we just talked about. We need to have them memorized. I would say that these two forms you're going to see more common than anything else, and it's all about the information that it gives us. It's much easier to graph this one than it is to this one. And the only reason why I say that is just because we're used to graphing equations that are like this. So looking at this example here, it says find the equation of the line in all three forms, passing through the given 2 points. So I have -3, 7 and -2, 4. So the first thing I need to do is I need to find the slope. So my m, we said, is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I get -3 over 1, which is -3. And so that's going to be my slope. So now I can take that and I can plug that into my slope, point slope form. And so y minus, we said that this is my x1 and y1, y minus y1 equals my m times x minus x1. So that's y minus 7 equals negative 3 times x plus 3. So right there, there's my point slope form. So now if I get y by itself, that's going to turn that into the slope intercept form. So I can distribute that 3 through, add the 7 to both sides, and so I'm going to get y equals negative 3x minus 2. So there's my point slope or slope intercept form. And then if I bring the 3x over to the other side here, I get 3x plus y equals negative 2. This right here is my standard form. Now the steps, they just kind of go in the order of how you probably should manipulate it. So just understand that the first thing you need is you need a slope and a point. You have to have that. If you have a slope, if you have a point, boom, you can create a line. Next one here says find the equation of the line in all three forms. I'm skipping a step and I gave the slope. So the slope is negative 5 halves. So I can plug it in. Y minus, we'll say this is x1 and y1. So my minus y1 equals my m times x minus x1. So then I can distribute. So I get y plus 1 equals negative 5 halves x and then plus 25 halves. So right now, this right here, that's my point slope form, and now I'm already converting it into that slope intercept form. Minus 1 on both sides, so I get y equals negative 5 halves x, and so we said minus, I'm going to say 2 over 2 because finding the common denominator. So I get minus 23 halves. And now I got to bring that onto the other side. So right now this is the slope intercept form, y equals mx plus b. So I could easily say this is my m and this is my b. And so bringing that over to the other side, you get 5 halves x plus y equals 23 halves. Now the one little issue with the standard form is this has to be positive and an integer. So basically, because it's a fraction, I have to get rid of the denominator. So I have to multiply everything by 2. Now this also has to be an integer. So just be aware of that, the value in front of y. So I'm going to get 5x plus 2y equals 23. And so that right there is going to be the standard form. Now sometimes when we go through this process, we're going to get some, I guess, awkward information, like for example, this undefined slope. Well, how do I do y minus y1 equals undefined times x minus x1? That's awkward, okay? That's awkward. We can't use that point slope form because how do you have this undefined value for m? So we have to tackle it a different way, and we have to remember that an undefined slope is a vertical line. And so that is an equation that represents x. And so if you guys remember that special case, we would say x equals a number. So whatever the value for x is in this instance is going to be x equals negative 2. So in conclusion, what was reviewed today? Well, we talked about the 3 different equations of a line and the basic elements that we needed them. So I want to ask you, what were those 2 elements that you needed to create that equation of the line? And what are the 3 different ways that we can express that equation of the line? Well, this does conclude our lesson. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments.